other thing that affects our understanding of the Bible is the nature of Scripture itself. The Bible is a unique book. It claims to be God-breathed, 2 Timothy 3:16. It is living and active, according to Hebrews 4 and verse 12. It can therefore speak to every individual in a very personal way, and that in itself makes Bible interpretation very difficult. Secondly, the challenge of interpreting different types of biblical literature. The Bible is full of different types of literature. You've got history, you've got law, you've got poetry, you've got wisdom, you've got prophetic passages, you've got narrative. You can't interpret a poem in the same way that you interpret narrative, or the same way that you interpret a legal section. And so you have to adjust the way that you understand and interpret the Bible depending on what sort of literature is in front of you. Thirdly, the challenge of understanding the historical context. Who wrote this particular book? Who is speaking? When was it written? What is the historical background and the context into which it's written? Fourthly, there's a challenge in understanding grammatical issues. The Bible was written in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. There are two different types of language. There's analytic and synthetic. Analytic is when the meaning is conveyed through word order. So, for example, if you say, the dog bit the man, the word order is very important. Otherwise it becomes, the man bit the dog. That's an analytic language. But then there's a synthetic type of language as well, where the word order is less important. The word itself is changed to change the meaning of the sentence. So English is largely analytic, the order of the words is important, but New Testament Greek is synthetic. The word good, for example, has 30 different forms in New Testament Greek. So translating from a synthetic language to an analytic language is a real challenge. You can't translate it word for word. So one Greek word might take a whole English sentence to really unpack its full meaning. And of course, everything in Greek was written in capital letters. There's no distinction between spirit with a capital S and spirit with a small s. They left no gaps between the words either, and there's no punctuation. Add to these problems the idiosyncratic phrases that we use. For example, in English, if I say, he's driving me up the wall, we understand what that means in our own day, in our own setting. But if you take that phrase literally, you think, what does that actually mean? Somebody's driving you up the wall? Well, we're trying to interpret, when we're looking at the New Testament or the Old Testament, we're trying to interpret some phrases which had clear meaning in their time, but we've lost track of what they originally referred to. And then fifthly, translations of the Bible all involve interpretation. It is impossible to translate the Bible without interpreting it to some extent. Translations can be done in three main ways. There's literal, there's dynamic equivalence, and free types of translations. So a literal translation is sticking as closely as possible to the original text, to the original phrases. So that would be translations like the Authorized Version, the Revised Standard Version, the New American Standard Bible, the New International Version, the English Standard Version. Those sorts of translations try and stay close to the original phrases. And then there are Bibles which use dynamic equivalence. They aim to find the phrase in the language that you're translating to that closely matches the phrase in the original language. So, for example, the Good News Bible or J.B. Phillips translation. And then thirdly, there's the free translations, just getting hold of the gist of it. Translations like the Living Bible, the Message, or the Passion Translation. So as you can see, the nature of the reader and the nature of Scripture itself really does affect the way we interpret Scripture.